week ahead on the MarCommEd community. I'm Zack Grimes from the Loris Trust, and I'm joined today by my co-founder, Ryan Green from Enterprise. And I'm really pleased to say we've got Holly Pickering on from Djanogly Learning Trust, who will be giving us first insight into the week ahead. But first of all, I just want to give Ryan a chance to say a few words.
Yeah, thanks, Zach, and well done for pronouncing Djanogly correctly. As we found out just right at the beginning of this, we were saying it incorrectly. So yeah, well done, Holly, for correcting us. Yeah, and just really excited to have Holly here. These, the week ahead sessions are for us to showcase the fact that there are other marketing and comms professionals out there doing great work for schools and multi-academy trusts. And we're excited to start this kind of series of them as we work through colleagues, members, other professionals who are in the sector, and kind of give them an opportunity to speak to the community. So
fantastic. So we'll go straight to it then, Ryan. So Holly, I've introduced you, but do you just want to give everybody a little bit insight in terms of what your role is within the trust?
Yeah, sure, thanks. I work for Djanogly Learning Trust, so we're a medium-sized trust for 10 schools in the East Midlands. My title is Executive Assistant, so that might be a bit different, but someone out there in the MarEd community will recognise. It means that marketing is part of what I do, and I do a lot more of extra things, but marketing is the thing that I love and the passion that I have, and where I think my head goes to most. So I'm sure someone else out there can resonate with that. It's not necessarily something I do Monday to Friday all the time. It's something that I've just got a massive, massive passion in. I've been part of the trust for 8 years, and under the marketing umbrella, that means I've been part of the senior team that's set the vision and values, that's updated websites, that's put the trust on social media, that's done the marketing basics, if you like, of how I started my role and how I wish to develop it.
Fantastic. Brilliant.
Yeah,
well,
yeah, that's amazing, Holly, and it's really interesting because I think we've seen, Zach and I have seen a few people come into the kind of community with different titles, but very much, the marketing and communications is a kind of big part of that role, and like you said, the executive assistant, PAs as well, development directors. There's the broad selection of titles, but the kind of discipline remains the same.
Yeah.
I
find it interesting because my broader role allows for me to see what's happening across the trust team. So then it allows me to support with comms, whether that's department comms specifically for HR, or whether that's the wider comms to all staff about the Learning Trust news. So I find that an interesting element of it, which lends me for a different title of executive assistant. But I've often had conversations with Zach about feeling that I dip my toes into marketing, and you sometimes don't recognise the things that you do are actually that skill specifically because you're not marketing manager or you've not necessarily got the CIM qualification. So it's being brave and bold enough to say, actually, I do those things and that's what I enjoy the most. And then looking for that professional conversation, which is where I joined the MarCommEd community.
Fantastic. So just in terms of the marketing and comms remit, obviously, it sounds like you've got a hell of a lot of responsibility there as part of your executive assistant role. But what would you say is your priority for the week ahead?
My priority this week is I'm working with one of our schools to redesign their school logo. So I have been into school already. We've looked at the vision and values and the journey they've been on. I'm working with a graphic design company. So we work with Law Creative, who will go away, and that's where my key skill is short. I'm not a graphic designer in my world. So they will work a couple of logo ideas, and then we'll start to plan a new logo for the school. And then on a project management front, I will work with the school on how we launch that to the community. So this next week, it will be to see where the designers are at, how many designs we've got, whether we're tweaking it now or tweaking it in a bit, and we'll start to then plan on how that is integrated or launched.
And such an important thing, isn't it, the school logo, because it kind of spreads and touches a lot of areas. whether it's uniform, whether it's kind of artwork, websites, and how are you finding the kind of how are you finding and facilitating that decision by committee? Because everybody's got an opinion on a school logo. They have their personal preferences, but logo design is a real art form. There's a lot of discipline behind it. There's a lot of rules, a lot of things that senior leaders and maybe some of the school team just don't really appreciate or understand, and they have this kind of passion and preference and personal kind of desire to see something that might be outside of the kind of graphic design discipline for logo creation. So how are you managing that?
I've always managed it with just be open and honest and have conversations. So sometimes it might be a senior leader that doesn't realise it wouldn't transpire very well on an embroidered top. It might be then understanding where that logo is in school. And it might be then just listening to everyone's ideas and combining it. My job is to make sure that every voice is heard, and that the community feel stays central to the creation of a logo.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want to do is disengage with the community, whether that's children, parents, governors, senior leaders, that everybody feels at some stage prior to anything going out with this is our final version, that they've had a little bit of advice or guidance or input. So I can offer that from a project management perspective. So I think that's my biggest thing. That's the way I tackle it. Again, the MarCommEd community might offer me some advice on just get a logo out there and do it. He's done that. It's an interesting one for me as well, because I tend to find logo redesign coming at the start of an academization process. If I'm changing my academy status, this logo we're changing in more of an established school. It's more because they've revised their vision and values and their journey they've been on, and they feel that a logo change would reflect the next stage in developing their community. So it's an interesting project to be part of.
Yeah, so it certainly sounds. I think you're probably having a few people from the MarCommEd community asking for some advice on that. Because it's quite a rarity, but it's a great insight. It seems like you've got a full end-to-end hand of the project. So hopefully you've got more than a week to do that, though. It's probably taken up most of your week, but there's a hell of a lot of work involved there. Just obviously broader with your role as well. So what current challenges are you facing in like your campaigns in particular, and how are you addressing them?
I think my current challenge is we want to take a review of where we are on social media. So we're on some social media platforms as a trust. We're not on all social media platforms. So my last few weeks, I've been doing a lot of research on how we use social media, how different social media is from how it was a few years ago, how we're consuming social media differently. And then I want to do a more broader sweep. And again, this is a longer term project. This is not something that's going to be a week, of then making sure that my academies and my trust group are on the right social media channels, but also that if we are on them, we have a plan to keep them populated. So your social media is only as good as your posts that are going out. You're only as strong as your communication links. So it's making sure that we have a plan, that we're not just opening up a social media account and leaving it dormant. Mm-hmm. My biggest challenge with all that big project is then, I don't mean the buy-in, there is a buy-in on social media, but it's that reassurance to senior leaders that we can be on these bigger platforms and we can not just join the conversation or lead the conversation, but that it has such a positive impact for schools. And it was an interesting piece, and I really wish I'd remembered the name of the article that I'd read, but it was looking at how we consume social media and how social media is consumed so differently to how it was a few years ago, and how our Gen Z are going to be our parents soon. They're going to interact with school in a completely different way, and the choices that they make, how they are already on and using these platforms probably better than I am. And particularly with the rise and the change of TikTok and that video content, I can honestly say that that's something that we need to develop as Djanogly Learning Trust, but it's something that I'm excited to develop and join that conversation. But again, I think my biggest challenge will be that we have the expertise, and that it's, again, not an account that's opened and not used, that we're on it, using it successfully, and we're monitoring that interaction, and it's that positive interaction. So I think social media opens up a really big debate, but for me, it's really interesting.
And if I can just jump in there, Holly, just on that point, I mean, it's really interesting. I was at a conference last year, and they were talking about how learning, like bite-sized learning, is taking over social media. So people are watching these 30-second kind of videos on like how to make something or craft something or cook something, and actually social media has become a vehicle for education, but it has to be done in a certain format. The content is shrinking, it's becoming very intensive, as people kind of look to that. And it's interesting as well, I think the flip of how social, your presence on social drives your website visit. So people will go to social first, and then they'll bounce over to your website, and this kind of perception I think schools have, which is the reverse, you know, that people think they go to their web. That doesn't happen anymore. You know, we all go to this one feed, whichever is our chosen platform. We're ingesting kind of and entertaining ourselves and looking for information, and then we're moving across to these web platforms to kind of read the deeper or more richer kind of content.
Can I just add there as well? I think you raise a really good point around generations and their preferences, and for me, I think nationally we don't talk about this enough. You know, the landscape for social media in particular is changing all the time, and I think the challenge we've all got is keeping up with that change and that demand. As you mentioned, TikTok, you know, that there's a misconception that that's just for young people, and actually it's not. You know, I don't have the data to hand, but you know, there's a lot of stats out there that show that TikTok is used far broadly because it's more relatable and, you know, accessible now because of its content to older ages. So it's like, then the question is, how can we use that appropriately, but then also maintain it? Because, you know, we've all experienced where it's like, oh, we should be on TikTok, and then the question is, well, why? You know, how are you going to use it? What's your strategy to maintain that platform going forward? And it's, you know, the workload then just obviously potentially is huge. So, you know, I think, they definitely share that same pain with you, and you know, where social media is concerned. But I don't think there's an end point to this. I think it's, you know, it's a constant evolution, and each year asking, are we on the right platforms? Are we producing the right form of content? So, you know, it really is a minefield, but it's, you know, there's a lot of opportunity there. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think, did we want to ask one final question, Ryan?
Please, if we can. And Holly, what emerging trends in the education sector are currently influencing your current marketing communication strategies?
I mean, if I want to say sort of a positive, I don't know how to word it. I probably want to say just joining conversations on TikTok, and I'm going back to social media because that's obviously what I've been researching.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
And I'm wanting to say how we use that social media. I think my emerging trend is then joining those hashtags and staying relevant and staying part of a positive conversation. And I think I'm looking a lot at research into how to use that positively for Djanogly.
Brilliant, fantastic. Yeah. Do you want to add anything on to that, Brian?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think the kind of social media debate is going to continue. There'll be those trusts and schools which are, you know, openly embrace it, and then there'll be those that feel that it's not right for them. I think the interesting thing is we're going to have to. You know, there's the kind of whole kind of data protection piece. There's the kind of, you know, the crisis comms piece of, you know, those keyboard warriors who start, you know, putting on negative comments, and it's going to be an ongoing discussion that we have to manage that, and maybe we just have to get comfortable with it, you know. that there isn't going to be everyone who just shows us love each and every time. But, you know, to be quite frank, that's the way of the world. But we've got it. I think we have to always keep schools secure. I think we have to always protect and track, you know, which assets we're using, which pictures, because, you know, that's really where social media comes to life. Is you show, as you mentioned, you're kind of showing what's happening inside these organizations. But if we get it right, and I think as marketing and comms professionals, if we tick all the boxes, if we stay safe, we stay secure, we will absolutely be able to demonstrate to these communities that we're, you know, the value of education. And it's interesting, Leora Crudis talked about the rising tide of distrust between parents. You know, we'll be able to battle those challenges because we'll be naturally going into people's feed where they'll see stuff every day, where they spend 2.5 to 3.5 hours, you know, a day, showcasing all the great work that happens within schools. So I think it's a challenge, but I can see it having, if it's managed well, will have such a positive impact for schools and building that engagement piece with parents in the broader community.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. Yeah, it provides a window to the school and allows the outside community to see what you're doing, and it could take away a fear of a new mum not being sure what's happening in class for the little ones. But at the same time, it shows you all the amazing things that children get to experience: the school trips, the extracurricular clubs, what am I learning in school today? If, you know, kids can come home and say nothing, mum could look on social media and see what's happening in the classroom. It opens up a huge window, even with all the pitfalls, but it's being then brave enough to say, there is so much stuff happening in school as marketing and comms people. We need to go, no, that's amazing. Let's put it out there. Let's engage with the community. Let's show them the things that happen that take an average school day into something completely wow.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we've got to continue this conversation on a more of a long form lightning talk. So I think we're going to have to get you back on at some point, Holly, to explore your journey with the socials, and I think it'd be good as well to look at the logo stuff and how you get on with that as well. But yes. I think we're going to wrap it up there for today. You know, it's been very insightful conversation. I think I've taken a few things there that I've noted down from what you've said. So again, thank you. Just want to say big thank you to yourself and your trust for supporting this first talk. Big thank you, Ryan, as well, for your contributions. But big thank you to everyone that's watched today or watching later. If you do have any further questions, please add them. And, you know, we want to keep this conversation going in the MarCommEd community across our socials.
Brilliant. Thanks, Zach. Thanks.